Working Fans Podcast. Cool.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Coming down 3, 2.
Welcome back for another week of the Working Fans Podcast. This is AJ. I'm the former wrestler. We've got Dave, the ultimate fan, here with us as we do every week. Our producer Joe likes to make us sound good and makes us look way more professional than we actually are. As always, you can find us on Twitter, that's @FansWorking, Facebook, Working Fans Pod. We've got email where you can reach out to us and please contact us to let us know what you think of the podcast and for any ideas that you might have. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram where you can keep up with us at workingfanswrestling_pod. And then you can now listen to us on all major platforms, including Anchor.fm. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, and you can actually check us out on YouTube. Now, it's important when you go onto the Apple Podcasts and YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a rating, let us know what you think so you can help us out and we can continue to do what we love and bring you guys in as fans.
Aloha, everybody. We're the VonErich. I'm Marshall VonErich. I'm Ross VonErich. And you're listening to the Working Fans Podcast.
All right, everybody, it's the Working Fans Podcast. It's your fan, Dave. Here today, I got a couple good ones on. They are third-generation wrestlers. They are the grandsons of the legendary Fritz VonErich and the sons of the legendary Kevin VonErich. They are also the MLW World Tag Team Champions. Ross and Marshall VonErich. Guys, how you doing?
Oh, good. What an intro, man. I'm pumped now. Thank you so much. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Yeah, we're happy to be on the show.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So I want to start off in the beginning. When you guys were growing up, how long before you knew, what a big deal your family was in Texas? And, going in school, too, was there ever any, jealousy from other people? Or was everybody good to you? How was that growing up, being a VonErich?
Some of my earliest memories, this is Ross, by the way, some of my earliest memories of going to the shows with my dad, I'd be with my mom in the stands or whatever, behind the, in the back. And then I just, I remember leaving shows and then fans, crowding the cars, we'd leave. But it was just normal, I never had anything to really compare it to. And then I went to the same school as my Uncle Kerry, my dad, my uncle, all my uncles. And I had the same, third grade teacher, so small town kind of thing. And, and it kind of goes both ways, everybody knows, the name Atkinson, there's, affiliated with VonErich. And, so sometimes, you'll get a ton of favor, and they'll treat you great. And other times, they treat you like, you don't exist or, you're annoying or whatever. Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons. Sometimes that if the teachers, it kind of trained us as adults to try to come off as non-intimidating as possible because, sometimes if people thought we were going to be entitled or snobby when they first met us, because we're both pretty quiet, and so sometimes I can come off as snobby, and so we would try our best not to, but yeah, the good old yes ma'am, no, and yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, that goes a long way.
Kill them with kindness. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys broke in. I saw that you trained with your dad, obviously, but you also trained with Harley Race. Is that a fact?
That's right. 2012 is when everything started for us. Harley Race had a wrestling academy, and we were both playing football. Wrestling was always a dream of ours, especially younger, because of course we just wanted to be like our dad. Our dad is just a great father, a great role model, and we grew up watching the old World Class tapes and stuff, and we'd be wrestling each other the whole time we were watching, jumping all over the bed. It didn't matter where we were. We'd be Walmart, Home Depot, we're wrestling in line, and so it was just kind of what we were so used to. And then to actually have the opportunity to go and go to a school and really see what we're made of and compare yourself to other guys that have been doing this a long time. It was really, really awesome. So we went to the Harley Race camp, and that's when we got invited to Pro Wrestling Noah. Two scouts were there, and they brought us to Pro Wrestling Noah, or invited us after. And so we didn't really know what we were in for, but I think now Pro Wrestling Noah is one of the best things we could have done for our career. My dad, it was his way of, putting us in the fire, and, we definitely didn't have anything handed to us over there. It was we started off our first 3 months with just bumps, and it was all about learning to respect the business, and it just gave us a whole new perspective of wrestling, and it was great for us.
In your guys' time in Japan, did you find that to be a more physical style as well?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Japan, any preconceived notions we thought we had about, wrestling, because we're both, athletes trying, looking to go to, further our careers in high school, college athletics. And so any preconceived notions we had about it being like hokey or whatever, American style, whatever, it totally changed in Japan, with the hard hitting and, everyone wearing mouthpieces. And our first day there, we went to a show at Kurikan Hall to kind of watch the product. And we were watching these guys put mouthpieces in, right? What is that all about? And then these guys are just killing each other. I saw one of the guys lose a tooth and over an elbow exchange. And we were sitting there after the show, went over to my dad and like, did you just see that? And he's like, welcome to Japan. And so it was just, but it made us closer as brothers. We've always been really close, but it definitely made us closer as brothers. We had to have each other's back no matter what, and we just didn't. In Japan, you got to earn everything, and it's just because your name, they'll be harder on you if you're third generation because they don't want to take the easy route, and so it's all about respect over there, and I think. Out of respect, they were harder on us, and it really helped us. Looking back, I'm thankful for, Segura, all the guys that were, rough and tough with us, so, now we look back and we're grateful for it and we feel like we grew a lot from it.
Yeah.
A question specifically from Marshall. Did you start off barefoot, or was that something you decided you wanted to do to honor your dad? How did that come about, and what was the adjustment like?
So I've always been barefoot. I just hate shoes, and I've definitely picked that up from my dad. And it's less weird living in Hawaii, but going into not getting looked down upon for having dirty feet. So I'm always never wearing shoes. But when we went to the Harley Race Academy, my dad was trying to make me buy some wrestling shoes, and I just hated them so much. I was getting blisters, and I was trying to break them in a couple of days before we went. And I got to the school. They said, train in whatever you're gonna wrestle in, and I told them I wanted to be barefoot, and that was the best decision for me because also I like to travel light, and so I can just throw my trunks in my back pocket, and I'm ready. I can take my trade wherever I go.
That's awesome. Given obviously the up and downs of the VonErich legacy and everything that happened, do you guys feel any pressure right now carrying on the VonErich legacy? Is that something that, weighs on the back of your mind, or is that something you guys, you're just doing you right now? How does that work?
I would say it's just all about perspective, how you look at it. And I don't mean to sound preachy or anything, but, before anything, we're Christians and we put our, God has opened this door in wrestling and everything that's come about. And so we really haven't tried to force anything to happen. We really just let the doors open, because any door I've tried to open has shut in my face, whether it be football, track and field, whatever it be. And then wrestling is the only door that stayed open. And that was a dream of mine when I was a kid, but I kind of let it go because I didn't know, that's a big dream. And I don't know, it was just weird how the wrestling door stayed open. But yeah, at first, being young, I could definitely see just how the wrestling fans looked at my dad in Texas, Israel, and like all these places, how they had such a respect for him, and seeing what my grandfather and my uncles did. And so for us as brothers, we go out there, and as soon as the bell rings, we're going to give it everything that we have due to the blood, sweat, and tears my uncles and our family have done for the name. And so we feel like we wouldn't be doing it justice if we didn't go all out. But we don't look at it as really pressure, really, because God has us here for a reason, and so we really are just we're going through the doors that he opens. But it's just been a magnificent ride with my brother. We get to travel the world, and it's to know that the pressure is not on me. When it's over, God will close the door, and the door hasn't shut. So we're gonna keep on going. We haven't really tried to push anything to happen. All this stuff, MLW, it all just came up. We didn't send them any tapes or anything. It was just one step at a time. And we definitely went through a stagnant part of. We started doing indie shows in the mainland, and we didn't want to go to WWE, so we weren't really sure what we were supposed to do. But the door didn't shut, and so we just, we were just trying to stay faithful, keep, even if there was, 12 people in the crowd, go out there and wrestle like it's a main event, wrestle, just give it all we have. And, eventually MLW reached out to us with the perfect plan for us, the perfect situation scenario that we could work with, which was live in Hawaii and wrestle, be a professional wrestler. And a lot of companies wouldn't work with that because, living in Hawaii, it's expensive ticket, it's far away. They want us to move, and learning a little bit of what my dad's story. Family is important. Family is everything. That's where we draw a lot of our strength. And so, especially when my dad's in his latter days, we love spending this time all in the same island. We go to each other's houses every day, and it's we're just making the most of it during this time. But it really is it's a beautiful, awesome life. I couldn't be happier. I'm glad God shut the doors that He needed to shut, because if it were up to me, I would have been a car salesman or something. I don't know. I'd been something else.
Well, I'm glad you guys are doing what you're doing. Now, one thing else I want to ask you about before I get into MLW is, two things. One, you got to wrestle with your dad in Israel, I see, which I'm assuming was a really big deal. I want to hear a little bit about that, but also Israel, because for whatever reason, the VonErichs have been hugely over in Israel. Little insight into that, and then what was it like teaming up with your dad?
Yeah, so in the 80s, Israel only had one TV station that would play, and World Class was on it, and every day it would come on like right at it was like their Shabbat on every Saturday at 7:00 is like when they were allowed to like watch TV and relax again or whatever and stuff, and they had just had that one channel. So I think it's the only time in history, this is what I heard from some Israelis over there, the only time in history that anything has ever had 100% ratings, and so it was like it was a part of so many people's lives growing up, a part of after Shabbat we watched the VonErich, it's just like it was like almost tradition, it was for that for that little period of time, and those people carried it with them, and so now here we are today, and still have a great relationship, and my dad and all of us were lucky enough to get and somebody came up with the idea to one more match for my dad in Israel, and my dad didn't have any plans to have a retirement match. He never did, but he said if he ever did it, it would be either Dallas or Israel. And and my dad didn't know the magnitude of Israel until in the 80s he went down there, and they just heard they had great TV ratings, and so my dad was like, what, the real Israel? They're VonErich fans? Are you serious? And we've always been fans of Israel. And he said that he got there, and there was just the one time that he's gotten weak in his knees from the sea of people. And he said that it was the biggest crowd he's ever seen. And he got out of the plane, and the guards were saying, "This is for you. They're here because of you." And my dad couldn't believe it. And they told him, "Don't look up. Don't make eye contact, because they don't want to make they don't want to have an uproar in the crowd. If he gets the crowd hot, then there's barricades up." And so as he's walking through the barricades, he waved it like a lady that was yelling for him. And he said as soon as he waved, the barricade started shaking and moving, and he said the ground rumbled. And so the guards picked him up over his shoulder. He thought he was in trouble, and they ran him to the police station. And he said they sat there and watched World Class tapes for about 3 or 4 hours till the crowd died down. And that's when he knew that there was something big going on, something special going on in Israel. And it was just unreal. And the fact that we got to go there with my dad and have his retirement match, it was just so many bucket list dream come trues at one time. It was unreal. It really was unreal. I got to sit in there. It was the first time in a long time that 3 VonErichs were in the same ring, and sitting there learning with my dad. It was like a training session. We were sitting there talking about moves. My dad was like, "Hey, well, watch what I do here," and he'd get tag it, so we'd tag him in. And I remember we'd literally be in the corner, and he's giving us advice and telling me what I should do next time I'm tagged in, and tag me, that kind of stuff. And I was just kind of stepping back. I'm like, I'm gonna look back one day and just think this is really surreal. There was one moment in the match where I'm like, this is just a really surreal moment right now. And it was the first time our nieces and nephews ever watched us wrestle live, because we brought the entire family. All 20 of us were there. And so our nieces and nephews, my brother-in-laws, my sisters, everybody was there to see it. And it was just, it was like time stood still. I look over to the left, and my family's in the front row, and I look to my right, and my dad's sitting on the apron with me. It
I couldn't describe it, but there was definitely a lot of speed bumps in the road. My dad had the flu the day of the show. We all had a stomach virus on the plane. It was definitely a test, but I don't know, as soon as that bell rang, my dad, like I was saying, he's a good role model. He like nipped up. He's like, all right, boys, let's go. And that stranglehold came on and the place roared. It was just so cool.
That's awesome. I'm glad I asked you guys that. That's a great story too, with your dad in Israel too. Wow.
Thank you.
So, I saw the Dark Side of the Ring documentary last year, and, the ending with you guys all hanging out with your dad, I remember thinking personally, I was like, I really love to see these kids get a shot in wrestling. And then I saw MLW, because I've been following them for a while, announced that you would be coming. And I was like, all right. But man, to me as a fan that watches that product, I don't think they could handle you guys any better. What has it been like working from MLW, and who are some of the people helping you out behind the scenes?
We always knew that the perfect thing we would know it was the perfect thing when we're able to stay here in Hawaii, with our family and stuff, and have a promotion, work with us and, fly us out and do all that kind of stuff. And MLW was, we got offers, to move and, work with other, pretty big companies, and we feel like this MLW came in at just like the perfect time. Court Bauer, that guy, he's one of my favorite guys to work for. He came in, he saw something in us that we didn't really see in ourselves yet. We were just going through the doors that opened, and Court, he said that, he said that he believed in us, and then when he brought us in, I don't know, it was like he knew what was going to happen before it happened. He'd see the future or something. That's what it felt like, because he was telling us how big it was going to be, and he was right. It was just getting bigger and bigger, and it was just him bringing in at that timing right after the Vice thing. He was talking to us before the Vice thing aired and before we even talked to Vice, and so it was just perfect timing, because we finally came up with an agreement of staying in Hawaii and working with them, and then the Vice thing came out right before our debut, and so that timing of that was just unreal. But we really could not be happier with the promotion we're at, and the guys in the locker room. We got like a brotherhood in the locker room. These guys, everybody really does love each other. It really is like a family. I'm sure everybody's pulling for each other. Everybody wants MLW to look good and do well. And there's guys like low key. We've been getting advice from him for years in Japan. We used to sit down with him, have coffee with him, and just pick his brain, because he's one of our favorite wrestlers when we started going to Japan. And it was just cool to see an American fight with the same ruthless mentality as the Japanese. And you see a lot of the Americans kind of lighten up on the Japanese, and low key would just give it to them, and that's what we respected, and that's what we wanted to do. And so to be able to be in the locker room with low key again was just unreal for us. And we've made good brotherhoods with a lot of the guys. Harry Smith, Brian Tillman Jr. is one of our good buddies now. Douglas James. There's so many guys in the locker room that it's been surreal. And then we were also good buddies with Tom Lawler before all this. We trained together, and we pick his brain. He was giving us a good perspective of just the fighting world, and to bring that into wrestling, and that's what we wanted. We want our style to be just unusual, and like a bar fight, really. That's what we're going for, and these guys are just awesome to pick their brains and work with.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I like, too, is the music they have you come out to. It's very reminiscent of Stranglehold. And
yeah, we love that. Yeah, we're stoked for that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then, the way you guys debuted and, fighting with Contra, and there's these brawls. Like you said, it looked like a bar fight. I remember the first time you guys were in there with Contra, and I just saw this wild fight happen. And I'm like, well, I texted a buddy of mine. I was like, this is the damnedest thing I've seen in a while. You have to watch this. But
yeah, it was definitely unique. Like after the match, I remember thinking, did that go really well, or did it go terrible? We didn't know. We had no kind of feeling of how it went. But we got in the back, and Court was like, welcome to MLW. He was happy with it. I'm like, okay, good. He's happy. We're happy. But yeah, it was definitely a weird match. I feel like for a lot of the fans.
Well, one thing I really liked was the placement. First ever pay-per-view. You guys are going against the Dynasty. You guys are like modern, just classic, old school style baby faces. Real easy to get behind. And then the Dynasty, just absolute shit heels. Nothing really redeemable about them.
Yeah.
And so it's just great. It kind of reminds me of the old school VonErich Freebirds. And I remember your dad saying, this isn't Texas versus Georgia. This is decency versus filth. And that's kind of what I thought with you guys versus the Dynasty. And I think it says a lot. Court believed in you guys to put you on the very first match of the very first pay-per-view, and you get the straps. What was that all like?
Oh, man. That was like a milestone in our careers. You know, I mean, as soon as we started talking, yeah, and it was in Chicago, a place that, you know, we've always dreamed about wrestling in, you know. But before that, I remember going in just being like, or when MLW first reached out to us, we were thinking, you know, one day what a dream it would be to actually get the tag straps, you know, and it you know, came way sooner than we thought, and we were just way sooner. Yeah, and, you know, we felt a little, you know, unprepared or whatever, but I just remember the feeling of just total accomplishment and just being that was one of the high points of our career, definitely. And when being in Chicago, not knowing if people were going to know our name or know who we are, that was, you know, that having that question mark. But I just know that, you know, nobody can deny or you can't get behind a guy that did all that he has. And so when we got in there and to hear the Chicago fans behind us, it was just like, we looked at each other and it was this confirmation. All right, let's fight. It was just an amazing feeling. And yeah, to win the belts after, that was, you know, that whole night we were just sitting there. We just look at each other and start laughing. We just couldn't believe it. Like, man, this is insane, you know. And we're still like, it's as long as this. I know we're in this quarantine and this COVID-19 stuff's going on right now, and but the longer we're in quarantine, we haven't got a chance to defend our titles in a while, but it's going to be. I'm afraid we're going to be the longest reigning tag team champions without having to defend our titles.
Right. I mean, I'm glad you guys mentioned Chicago too, because I've never been there, but I will say, as an old school wrestling fan, that is an arena. Whenever WCW or even WWE or ECW went through, I'm like, man, that is just a wild, raucous crowd. They love their wrestling out there.
Yeah, it was. They just appreciate the art of wrestling, and you know, it was just so awesome. And I can't say enough about Court Bauer. He really, to us, you know, we feel like he's like the modern day Paul Heyman. You know, ECW was full of, you know, misfits. They had a just problem childs, you know, the men in the locker room, and that's kind of what you have at MLW. Guys that have been, you know, kicked out of the locker room for fighting. It's just, you know, it's weird how you put it all together and you got this like this family and you know, and Court Bowers, you know, is definitely just a great leader, a great guy to get behind, and he gives us before most of the shows, he'll give us a speech and just pump all of us up, and we'll run to a brick wall for this guy. You know, and so it definitely gets everybody ready to go right before the show.
Now, one more question about MLW. Dallas, Texas, intimidation games. What was that like coming back home? I mean, you definitely seemed like you got quite the response.
Well, for us, that meant so much to us because, you know, it was about 7 years ago. We were, you know, we were young boys in Japan and doing the Japan thing, and then we came to the mainland. It was one of our first shows in Texas, and we were in this little country town in the middle of nowhere. It was Burleson, Texas, or right like north of Burleson, and it was just a small country town. And they had a sign that our main event tonight, the VonErichs, and we were sitting there looking at that sign, and like, man, these people are coming to see us for the main event of this town tonight. And it wasn't a huge crowd, but that right there changed a lot of things for us, and it made us, you know, like it was, you know, maybe that there's someone else behind all this, and it's not just us, and that was really. That was a really heavy moment for both of us being the main event. And so for MLW to go to Dallas, it was, you know, it was our first time in Dallas, and to be VonErich and see that MLW believes in us enough to do a show in Dallas was just, it was unreal. Yeah, and you talk about pressure. You know, the greatest amount of pressure is not from people say, oh, you can't accomplish this, or you'll never be able to do that. It's when people believe in you, and especially you're going back to Dallas, and they put you in, a main event kind of style match, and you're like, that is the greatest amount of pressure to us, So as far as our career in MLW, that was our biggest feat. It's easier to have the mindset to want to prove people wrong, but when people believe in you and you want to prove them right, that can be a lot of pressure too. And so that Dallas show was, everybody was pulling for us, and it was definitely a heavy night for both of us. But when that bell rang, I don't know. I know as cheesy as it sounds, I really felt like all my uncles, my grandfather, everybody was watching it, and it just made me so proud to be a VonErich.
You guys seem like you, like a lot of performers, feed off the crowd. Have you seen any of these empty arena matches? And how challenging, if you haven't been in one, do you imagine it is to work without fans?
Well, we worked some indie shows that were almost like that. They're borderline. Borderline. But definitely the crowd helps so much. And I think there's definitely pros and cons from it. Some guys, just from what I've seen, will still act like there's a crowd there when they fire up and things like that. But, if there's not a crowd there, I think that we as all of us as wrestling fans can really appreciate the art of wrestling. And, I don't think there needs to be as much showboating or anything. I think it's more, this is just a fight, and a classic wrestling match. And so I've enjoyed watching it just because, it's just it's unique. It's different. It's just a classic art of wrestling. But the crowd, it definitely has a major factor in it I'd say for everybody, because it's if you have a new move you want to try or something, or you just take that chance and you scream and give a lariat and the crowd's behind you, it really is. It makes you want to do more and want to give the people more. And I definitely I couldn't appreciate the fans, MLW, and just our fans at BE Nation that the support they give us. It really is. It's just having people believe in you. It makes you want to prove them right. Everybody.
What are you guys up to right now during this quarantine? Anything going on? Are you working on anything or?
So we've been farming. We've been on the VonErich ranch. It's about 37 acres, and we're all spread out. It's like a compound, and so we get to be in quarantine all together. So that's been kind of nice. And we got a waterfall that we go to as a family. We'll jump in, spend time together, and it's definitely been. My nieces and nephews are growing up, and they've been going to school, and so it's kind of like time standing still for a little bit. I get to rekindle relationships with my nephews and nieces. I just had a son, and I'm getting to spend all this time with them. So I really am nothing but grateful, and it's been one of the best things that's happened for our family. But my heart goes out to everybody that's lost family members and that are taking this hard. And it's definitely not. It definitely is a serious matter. But as far as the quarantine goes, we're trying to make the most of it, and but we do miss wrestling. I can't wait to get back in that ring. It's all I think about, all I dream about.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, I can relate, like we got it pretty rough over here, but I'm in a pretty good area, but I'm still working. Business is good and podcast is going great. So, I mean, you can take some negatives and you can turn them into positives.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
See, that's all. And it's rare to talk to a guy like you that has a good perspective. That really is. That's refreshing for us to hear. That's so key. That is key. And if you're happy, you're not working a day in your life. And that's really how it is. I mean, we wasted a lot of our career dreading and being nervous and scared before matches, not being able to eat the night before, and wasting those days that we could have sat there and enjoyed it. And so now we, for the past couple of years, we really have just take it moment by moment, hold each other accountable about staying positive and being grateful that this is a door God opened, not us. And so we really are. We try to just constantly keep each other up and encourage. And we have meet and greets that these people paid to come see us. They drove 4 or 5, flew 5 hours to come see us sometimes. And so we had a match in Israel. People flew from Ireland. Someone from Texas came. It was just like it was unreal. The globe. People traveled the globe to come see us, and it's just one big blessing. This whole thing for us. It's been just nothing but fun.
I'm sure it can be very overwhelming at times too, I imagine.
Yeah, man, it can. Sometimes you just gotta sit back and just look at all this, and it's because we're humans, so we're day by day, and circumstances can shake us and be scary and stuff. But if you look at your life like a big highlight video, you see all the good, and I really am happy. My dad definitely had a nuts life, and losing his brothers. And I only have one, but the one brother that I have, we're extremely close. We know the other one's gonna say before we say it. We know, and my dad had that with five other men. 5 other men were just like him. Now my dad, he kind of sticks out. He's different, but he had 5 other guys that were just like him. And to lose that, it must have been a really heavy burden to bear. And so being able to wrestle and come home and have these road stories, and my dad relate, it's like he has his brothers back. And so we've gotten even closer as a family through all of this, and it's especially Japan, coming back from Japan. And my dad, he said that we left as boys and we came back as men, and it really was like that. We were like brother lions. It was just us versus the world. That's what it felt like when we were in Japan. Because everybody wanted to test you. Everybody wanted to see what you're made of, and so we had to fight our way out. But man, we would do it all over again. Morifuji, Morishima, Ogawa-san, Kobashi-san, all these men sat there, and Goshizaki, Kitaro, Aoki, all these guys, they taught us so much, and they taught us the hard way, and now I'm nothing but grateful.
Before we wrap up, are there any goals you want to get out there for 2020, and anything you want to promote?
So we have Twitter. We both have Twitter. I'm Marshall VonErich on Twitter, and then Ross VonErich on Twitter, and we share an Instagram, Ram VonErich, and that's Ross and Marshall. That's what it stands for. But as far as goals go, we're just continuing to just go through the doors that open. I know I keep saying that, but that's really what taking it by moment, taking life lightly. But I don't know. I still want to be an astronaut. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but that's definitely a goal.
Wow, man, I love to hear that. That's awesome. Outside the box.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. This was a real treat for me. I do this with 2 other buddies. We're all kind of we're quarantined now a little bit, so we're sending stuff in, and they are definitely jealous that I got this interview. So,
man, we really do appreciate it, and it really was refreshing to hear your perspective on this. Just being positive during this time. It's scary for a lot of people, but to have a joyful conversation in a time like this is refreshing. I really appreciate that, man.
No, absolutely. And yeah, for me personally, I always have I always worked out, but I had a bit of a sweet tooth, and in this time I've cut out the sweets. I've upped my diet. It's kind of like I'm home. I'm like, why don't I make some positive changes while I'm here? So it's just
you're a good job. That's the way to be, man. I wish I could say the same, but my sweet tooth is kicked in, and my gym's closed, and it's been a bit of a battle, but that's still refreshing for me to hear.
All right, guys. Well, hey, have a great night. Thank you so much. Well, it's night over here, but thank you so much for doing this. Maybe we'll get to do this again down the road, man.
Hey, brother. Man, it was great talking to you. Appreciate you, bro. God bless.
God bless. Have a good night.
All right, so that wraps us up for this week. Thank you again for listening to the Working Fans Podcast. So as always, you can find us on Twitter at FansWorking. Our Facebook page is Working Fans Wrestling Pod. We have email where you can reach out to us and let us know what you think also. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, workingfanswrestling_pod. And then as always, please continue to listen to us on Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, all your major platforms. If you're following us on Apple Podcasts, which we are also on now, and YouTube, please make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps us bring you these podcasts where we get to talk to you and talk with you every week.